I'm Rob Lucuria, Senior Editor of Gold Derby, here with Rafe Judkins, creator and showrunner for The Wheel of Time. Rafe, I've heard so many people remark that Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time fantasy novel series defies adaptation because it's just too epic, too complex, the scope's too large. Can you please talk us through how you navigated the delicate balance, terrifying I reckon, between keeping diehard fans happy and also not putting off newcomers?
Yeah, I mean, you've just summed up sort of what I've spent the last 3 years of my life trying to do, which is, it is a massive book series. And I don't think, for a long time, people have been trying to pull it off as a feature film. And I do think it defies adaptation in that space. But in the television space, I do think that there is enough time to sort of like live with these characters, to understand them the way that you do in the books. And that's really the thing that we focused on in the TV show. Is my biggest job is sort of condensing and making sure that the story can track for people who aren't familiar with this giant world with 2,700 named characters and different cultures and cities. And, it's massive. And I think the thing that people liked the most about the books was that there were these 5 characters at the core of them that they could just attach to and see through essentially their whole lives. And so that's the thing we've leaned into with the show, is just a razor sharp focus on these characters at the center of it and their emotional lives and following them through it.
Yeah, as an adaptation, I know this has been in the works for such a long time, and I hope viewers go into this without making comparisons to other fantasy shows. Like, there's no need for that at all. I went in completely cold, and was into it pretty quickly because it felt very accessible to me. Even though I'm like, who's that? What's that person's name? It doesn't really matter. I started getting the hang of it. Is it fair to say that the show stays relatively true to the novels, or would you say that you've still had to go off in your own direction? Like, how much of the novels have you adhered to?
Yeah, I always try to say that my job is to maintain the heart and the spine of the novels, that the show really feels like the books feel, and that we deliver the spine of the story of the books. And then, it's natural that we're adapting it to television. We have to change a lot of things to make it a show that someone like yourself could step into and just be able to follow what's happening. If we tried to do a one-for-one adaptation of the books, you would just be completely lost right off the bat. So I think, that's what I always try to stick to, is that I had read all the books before I came to the show, so I knew them really well and had like a feeling for what they were. I read them when I was younger with my mom. And so, I still have a good gut check for this feels like the books or it doesn't feel like the books. And as long as we're delivering that, the heart of them, then I feel like we're doing our job.
Definitely. And, I've got to say, I was talking to someone else who has seen it, who has read the books, who's a super fan. And his first reaction was, before he watched it, I hope they don't F it up. Obviously, he said the F word. I won't say that now. And he said, then they didn't. They actually didn't. They got it right. So you're in that sweet spot between you got it right for the fans and people like me who have no idea really enjoying it. So that's good. That's really good.
If we did that, I feel great about myself.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you're in such disparate locations, and it's a really big show. I imagine as a showrunner, how difficult or challenging, really, it seems like an obvious question, is it to keep production running as smoothly as possible when it's so big in scope?
Yeah, I mean, it's just massive. We have on any given day 700 to 1,200 people working on the show. So it is a massive undertaking of sort of managing not just the physical practicalities of it and the production, but also, the emotional aspect of it. It's a lot of creative people trying to all collaborate together. So a lot of it is about people finding their voice in the show and making sure that they are seeing themselves in what we're doing too. I'm not, like Amanda had said, I'm not one of those showrunners who's kind of like, this is my vision and like everyone hop on board. Like, I think that television's at its best when everyone who comes to the table is lifting it. And I think when you have that and you have people creatively invested, then you can really make something that feels special, and you feel people's passion for it on the screen. And I think, to do that and to interact with that number of people, and keep them all artistically, emotionally, and physically safe and invested in the show is, I don't know why this is a job for one person. It should be for 15.
I know, like, who came up with this concept of the showrunner? But here we are. Like, this is what we're doing. You're not alone in the COVID situation having kind of ruined things for people, but production commenced in September 2019, so a while ago. And then it was shut down in March 2020. And then you resumed more than a year later and concluded in May of this year. Like, I can't get my head around how disruptive and frankly heartbreaking that would have been to stall such a huge production. Can you talk us through that dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly, a huge blow to all of us, but I think that everyone in the whole world was experiencing different difficulties of their own at the same time. So you could sort of, in a way, the whole world stepped back for a minute. And so it felt natural that we were too. I think the thing that I always try to keep in mind as we're coming back, because there's this huge level of difficulty that's added to television production of trying to do it during COVID, both, just practically, but also emotionally for people who've been in isolation for months at a time. And then, we're shooting we do a lot of on location shooting. So we're all over the world, and people are just stuck in their hotel rooms alone at night, because if you go to dinner with someone and then suddenly you're close contact, the show could be shut down. So, it puts people in an unusual pressure cooker to make something. I think it's, if I try to look at the positives of it, we really wanted the first season to show these kids at the center of the show really grow up into adults, and they have in fact grown up. They are 2 years older, like we really have seen them go on this huge journey, and all of us who are making the show really feel like we've been through something significant together, and it comes through in all of their performances, and kind of the bond that the cast and crew have is more intense than I've seen on the first season of a show before. Like, there really feels like I would go to bat and kill for these actors, and I feel like they feel the same way about each other.
That's incredible. In fact, I feel like the cast works beautifully together. There's a real chemistry there, particularly with the younger cast, that I was really invested in their story. And I guess that's really important, that, it's like they've been working for 3 seasons, but they haven't. And obviously that's just going to add to the dynamic between them.
Yeah, exactly. It's really been, I think if there's anything positive to take from it, it's that and the connection that those actors have been able to build with each other.
Yeah. It's really telling usually when a network or platform renews a series for its second season before the pilot has even debuted. How important is it for, the support that you have from, Amazon, such a huge player in this industry, to provide you and the creative team so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge piece of what makes the show. If we didn't have, the financial support from Amazon and the resources to continue shooting during COVID, and, just the amount of support they've provided to us in all ways through the production, like, there's no way you could pull off a book series like this. Because the one thing, when we were first looking at continuing to shoot during COVID, the thing I said was, like, I don't want to sacrifice the quality of the show just to keep going. And we can't put our people in any jeopardy. So balancing those two things, that really required a lot of support from Amazon. And they've been huge about, really believing in not just this first season, but what this whole series of books means to people, and what it might mean to them to see, everyone wants to see the journey of these core characters across their whole lives. And so, you kind of have to invest heavily at the beginning to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, having, like a few other shows these days, it's so nice to see women at the forefront. You got Rosamund Pike playing Lorraine. Great casting. So there's so much. I can't wait for people to sink their teeth into this one. I think it's going to be hugely popular. Are you anticipating, like, what are you nervous about what people are going to say? How are you feeling?
No, I feel good. You know, we're pre-premiere, so I'm in a different position than the other showrunners on, where we don't really know what people think yet. But I think the thing that now that we've all seen the episodes, who are making the show, and I just saw the finale, the final cut of it this weekend. We were in the mix stage. So, you know, I feel like we've done what we set out to do, even despite the huge hurdles that were placed in our way along the path. So I think that we all feel really good about it. And that, you know, I've always said the big sell of our entire show, even with all the monsters and magic and giant lands and cities, is that you get to the end of that first episode and you want to know what happens to those kids when they ride out of that town. And if we do that, then we'll have people, and if we don't, we won't. And I think that we've hopefully created something that attaches you to those kids emotionally, and you do want to see what happens to them next.
Well, good luck with season 1. I think people are going to really flock to it. Thank you for your time today. We're going to bring you back now for our panel chat.
Amazing.